Well, winter kicked in around these parts around the end of January. I guess about 3 weeks ago we got our first little snowstorm, and I was complaining on one of the videos about that. But then last weekend we got I think a total of about 50 centimeters of snow, and it blew and drifted. That was 2 days of blizzard conditions that we had to put up with. But the last 3 days, you can see the old sun up there. It's been absolutely beautiful out. It melted an awful lot of that snow, and we've been able to get outside and enjoy life a little bit. So I guess that's our promise that someday it's going to be spring. But I guess we've got another storm, another nor'easter coming up the Atlantic seaboard again. One of those good old Texas lows that hugs the coastline. So it looks like day after tomorrow or tomorrow night we're in for another humdinger. So anyway, having said that, I'll go slow here so the phone has a chance to adapt to the light. There we go. That wasn't so bad. Well, I'll say welcome back, and we're going to do a little video on the Royal Enfield this time. I haven't done much in the way of work to that, just a little bit here and there since I got the engine up and running. So anyway, I think today I'm going to start taking off the timing case and having a look at what's under there, check that stuff out. And mainly the reason I'm doing this is to replace the seal underneath the ignition points and that, because apparently that's why Charlie stopped riding it, was because that seal was leaking so bad it was getting into the points, and he said it was embarrassing to drive it. So I guess the last time he had it out, he just drove it up the driveway, parked it in the garage, and didn't touch it for 35 years. So anyway, I'll get my tools together, and we'll start taking that timing cover off of there. All right, let's see, I've got started. I've removed the cover from the timing set. I've taken one of the screws out. The whole timing plate has to come out, and so does the advance mechanism underneath. I'm trying to keep things reasonably organized while I do this. I think I may have shown you this before, like there's lots of room in here, so they've got the condensers in there as well, and that's terrific. So now I just need to grab a 7/16 wrench over there. Get that out. Bear with me, I'll just be a second getting that. Well, maybe more than a second, but not too long. All right. Now, just get that bolt out of there. That holds all that together. What is that? 7/16 BSW. Or, what's that say? Yeah, 7/16. Anyway, yeah, nice little wrench. I had an uncle who used to work down the dockyard many years ago, and he worked in return stores. So he brought home a lot of stuff with him in his lunchbox, and quite a few of the things he brought home with him in terms of wrenches and spanners were stuff from the submarines, and most of them were, had the old British Admiralty engines in the old Oberon class O boats there. So that's a little slide hammer I've made up for removing these timing advance units. It usually works really well. Another way you can get them out is just to screw a bolt in the end of that shaft, put a pair of vice grips on it, and smack it a few times with a hammer, and it'll come out. So I'm just going to pay attention. I can see, I'm not sure, you see, if these have a retaining pin on the inside to keep that advance mechanism in the right place. So I'm just noticing here now that the fulcrum where the flyweights connect to the advance mechanism is in line with the screws that hold the points plates down. So that must be how this is set up to go. It's good to know that, because sometimes these British ones don't have a pin in place. Anyway, let's just see if this will come off. Hey, that was easy. Hey, I don't know if you can see that too well or not. It's just a little taper. There is no notch or pin in there like you would find in a Triumph. But anyway, I'll just take that slide hammer off of there and set that aside for next time. And I can see the seal in there now. It looks like it's about the same size as one from a Triumph. Anyway, I'm not going to bore you with this part, but I am going to stick a wrench in these little Allen head bolts. Is that the right size? Yep, seems to be. I'm going to loosen all them off and then see, that should just come right off of there. And I've unplugged the wires from here. Actually, one of them actually pulled the connector right off. But I noticed that these wires, they're really old and really stiff. The insulation's actually cracked in a couple of places on them, so I think I might just replace that entire stretch of wire while I'm at it, since I'm down here. Anyway, let me get this loosened up and then I'll show you what else I've got. Alright, just about ready to take that off. Just one more bolt to come out. Frankly, those bolts, they're not threaded in there very deeply at all. This might be the deepest one of all. Like a quarter-inch in here. The thread exclusion. Actually, this one is the longest of all. The rest of them are all this length. So I kind of wonder if they shouldn't be a little bit longer. I'll have to measure up those threads. They look like they're probably BS Cycle Industry threads, which are 26. Anyway, they may be a standard 5 thread. I'm going to have to get my thread gauge and check the pitch on those, because I might want to replace something a little bit longer if I can find something like that. Anyway, that is, if my eyes are telling me the truth, all the little Allen bolts under there. So and under there to catch the grip. With any luck, that might come off there. There's a wire right here, I guess. I thought that would pop right off there really easy. Oh, there she goes. I thought it was going to take a little more than that, but it didn't. That should come off here like that. I think I managed not to damage the gasket. Drive worm right there. Here's the worm here. Anyway, here's the oil pump drive. So, I need to check both of these seals. This one's still a little bit flexible, but it's pretty stiff all the same. And I have to change that one as well. This would be the one where the pressure feed goes into the crankshaft. So I'm just going to set that down there for now. Actually, I'm going to turn that upside down and just let the oil drip out of it. Works all right here. Nothing loose or shaggy. Oh, just a little timing chain. That's pretty good. The slackest point there is maybe 3/16 of an inch. That's not bad at all. I'll have to check and see just exactly what the book says it should be, but anyway, I think I will go and see if I can find some seals for that. Alright, let me show you what I found. That's the old seal right there. It's not torn, but it is pretty stiff. And the hole is quite enlarged in it. In other words, it's so stiff that that little garter spring isn't really doing much work anymore. And when you put that on over the shaft, it just slides right on. There's like hardly any of that seal is barely touching there at all. So it's no wonder that that was leaking. Now I have found a nice little replacement. This one would be the number that goes into a Triumph timing case. And that one is a whole lot snugger on there than this one here. You can really feel it holding against the shaft, and it does expand quite a bit when you push it on over there. Now there's a little tool that I have that goes right on here. It's a tapered tool. I made it a long time ago, and then somebody gave me the proper tool to do it with, and it's just about the same, but basically it just screws in the end of there, and it gives you a nice long taper so that when you go to offer up that cover on there, that the way this seal goes on, it doesn't go on the easy way, you know, with the big side first. It goes with the garter spring on the inside, and it's real easy just to turn the lip inside out on that seal, and then the spring comes out, and it stops sealing and all that kind of stuff. Where the one that goes on the crankshaft goes on the other way around like that, with the garter spring facing toward the pressure side where the oil pump is. So that one I'm going to leave alone. It's in good shape. It's also steel backed, and it's pushed in with no keepers or snap rings in there at all. I don't like that. There should be something in there to hold that seal in place, but you know what? Like the old adage goes, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So anyway, meantime, this is the one that's going in the case. That's the one that's been causing all the problems. I'm going to see if I can get that gasket off of here without tearing it, because I want to wipe it off and put a very, very light coat of Loctite anaerobic sealer on it, and then should be able to put that back together. So let's see what happens when I try to take that off. All right. Well, that was a bit of luck, because that came off in one piece. So it's actually a nice flexible feeling. It's not hard, so I can use that, especially after I put a bit of gasket sealer on there, and I mean a bit. Some people use way too much. Some people use silicone, and I don't like that stuff either. To get places where you don't want to go. Anyway, those cover bolts, this one here that's stripped, there's a couple of ways I could attack that. I could heel coil it, put a coarse thread in it, or I could cut it, put a coarse thread in, because I do have some longer coarse threaded Allen bolts, but these ones here are the 26 TPI Cycle Industry threads. So I did happen to find one. Now it is a slot-headed one, so it's going to be an oddball in there, but it is about a 1/4 inch longer than the Allen head bolt that was in there, and those really aren't screwing in there very far. So I kind of wonder if this might have been a kit that someone had bought. Anyway, those ought to work fine, so I'm going to go over and just wipe all of the rest of the grease and oil off that gasket. I'll take the new seal over there and clean up the cover and put that seal in it, and with any luck I should be able to get this back together in no time at all. I was almost finished this clip and I got all tongue-tied and stuff. Anyway, cover's on, timing's in and set. The only thing I really need to do now is to address that bad piece of wiring right there. So I'll be looking after that before I put the cover on the points housing there. So anyway, it's about 4:15 now. I think I'll go in and see about making something for supper for the boss and me. So maybe I'll come back out tonight and finish that off, or maybe I'll just leave it till tomorrow. We'll see. Okay, I just put the cover back on the points there. I replaced that whole set of wires going in from here into the condensers and to the points. So So that's all nice and new. Check the timing. I've also made sure that the proper spark plug was sparking at the proper time, because sometimes if you get those wires crossed over, then you'll fire the wrong plug, and then the bike won't go, of course. But anyway, I checked to make sure that was right. What are we? We're expecting another little snowstorm tonight. We'll see what happens. It's not going to be as bad as the one we got last weekend. That was something like 50 centimeters around here, and of course it blew around. But that was 2 days in a row with 2 blizzards, and it was all the same storm because it got stalled off the Providence and it just stayed there. And the poor folks up in Cape Breton, especially up around the Sydney area, I think they got like 150 centimeters, and they're just starting to get cleaned up. And then, bingo, here comes another one. Brace for shock. So anyway, that wraps it up for changing the seal in here. There was one little thing I wanted to mention that I also did with this. I don't know if you remember or not me mentioning on a previous video, but these little, yeah, it might have been on this video on an earlier clip, but these Allen head bolts that are in here, they're only into that crankcase by maybe 1/8 of an inch. They're barely in there, right? So what I did was I put the cover in the drill press, and I counterbored where the screws go in another 1/8 of an inch, so I know I've got some meat on there now that the screws can actually bite into without stripping. Even that one that was stripped before is not stripped anymore. It's got a good hold in there, so I'm happy about that. So yeah, so everything inside the timing side looks all right. Put that new seal in there that had been causing the problems with the points in the first place. Polished up the cover a little bit. I didn't go too crazy with it, but it looks a lot better than it did. And of course, I got to clean up that engine too. It's kind of dirty looking. But anyway, that wraps it up for this part. I'm not really sure what I'll do next on this particular bike. I know I need to change the shocks on the back. That'd be a good thing to do next, I guess. Anyway, get that done, and then I got to think about getting some tires for it too before spring rolls around. But meantime, I'm just going to wrap this up for now and say thanks for watching. I'll keep you posted as I do further work on this bike and on the Norton project as well. So, like I said before, thanks for watching. Toodly-doo.